Welcome back into the workshop, and a bit of an update. I've just made a video critiquing, I'm going to use that word, the tracksaw rail issue that Makita has. You want to watch that one. I think it gives a perspective, at least. I was quite annoyed with it because I hold Makita in such high esteem. When I find something that is an issue, then I'm a bit disappointed. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. Let's just move these things around. I have been held up, actually, from making the bench dog system for my tracksaw combination, or to combine it with my tracksaw. Sorry for all the mucking around. So that I can do my bench dogs this way, or use the tracksaw with the bench dogs this way to do 90-degree cuts and ripping cuts as well. One of the things was that the accessories that I've purchased, the length of the bit of the bench dog that goes into the bench itself can be up to, well, in my case, 32 millimeters. Well, that renders an 18 millimeter top, which I'm going to be using, too thin. Yes, it can be used, but it's not optimal. And some of the bench dogs have got the O-ring type fittings on them that expand out and grip or position the bench dog very securely in the top. And to get the maximum benefit of that, you want the thicker bench top. So we'll work with the 18. I can pack the panels up off the actual bench so that I can get the bench dog to drop right down and sit into the little groove or the bevel in the top itself. Then I thought, hang on, if I'm going to pack the bench top up just to allow the bench dogs to sit down, why don't I use other 18mm pieces of panel to pack it up, to be the packers? And why not, at the time of drilling the main panels, have those in place? I can drill down. I've got 36 mils of depth for my bench dogs to sit down into the holes and get the maximum performance out of them. So I thought, that's really good. So I can have my panels that I'm making run this way. So 2 or 3 panels wide, whatever width you decide to make them. Join them together with dowels so that they are all perfectly aligned, and then run the packer pieces at 90 degrees underneath the main ones, which will also help to tie things together. And I thought, that's a jolly good idea. Then you mark with your 345 system of whatever design you've come up with or purchased. Then you can drill your holes at the spacings that you require and desire through the whole lot, and you've got a really good system. I thought, that's a real Homer Simpson moment as well. I'm having too many of those. But I suppose the bonus of not being able to go as fast as I'd like is you start to think about it a bit more, and you come up with these other perspectives or ideas. And I'm going, yeah, if I do that, I can do these other things. And one of the things that came about was when I was thinking about the new miter station, I thought I was going to make it with the 25mm top, which I was going to do. Definitely, good idea. And then I thought about it, and I go, I've got some issues with that. I had the panel ready to be used, actually the one that I tucked back in out of the way, and I've gone ahead and chopped up some 18mm, so 2 layers of 18 to make up the top being 36 mils. Still hadn't joined the dots until, was it yesterday, when I thought to myself, hang on, if that's 36 mils, this is going to be 36 mils to accommodate my bench dogs. Can I use my bench dogs in that top and the accessories? And I go, oh yeah, I can, can't I? And that was a nice realization, and the benefit of being slow, which is me all round. So now that I've done that, I can realign my thinking, you could say, but realign where I drill my holes. And as you can see, this version has a 6mm series of holes. In this case, 100 mils, or in here 50mm. And what that did, I actually purposefully positioned them so that the this part of the hole is exactly an increment of 100 from this side, well, pointing camera, this side of the blade, and any holes on that side are exactly that 100 increment from this side of the blade. So that all I need to do is to grab a pin, drop it into any of these holes, and I know I'm cutting to an exact 100mm or 50mm increment. So here, as I've got drawn, that's a 400, 455, 556, etc. Set of holes. And it's just sometimes really good to be able to, at a drop of a hat, cut a piece of, well, whatever you're cutting, to that particular length. So I'm going to do the same thing, kind of, and I'm going to have a series of 20mm holes for my bench dogs running along here. I may or may not worry about having something butt up to it to an exact measurement. I don't know. It's not really a priority, it was just a bonus. So now, instead of having all of these holes, which were there to take plates that had other adjustment capable things on it, you know, I'm just trying to find some, but they've been buried. That was how I had the plates positioned. I'd pin them down to these holes, and that would hold the plate rigid, and then I'd have an adjusting screw for fine tuning my cuts down to the fraction of a millimeter, in fact. So now that I've got some other accessories, I might make use of them in this top here. So yay. It's actually, I've made the video, I don't know whether I've deleted it, it's that T gauge thingy there, which was for the thin ripping for the tracksaw. That was going to be used in combination with the tracksaw. It is put out there. This gets registered to the saw blade. I can then move it back, find out what my measurement is, and then my panels slide underneath the tracksaw guide, touches that, and then I can make my cut. And this is the actual item that I actually want. It's not the offcut, it's the actual item, and it is of a known and narrow length or width. Quite difficult and possible to use the tracksaw like that, but with the the parallel arm guides, they've got a workaround that allows you to cut narrow strips, but it's not ideal. I think this one, which was created by Hong Dui, and I think helped develop by Dennis from Hooked on Wood, this is a particularly good method for doing those narrow strips, whatever width you really want. And of course it can be moved out to suit your width requirements. And moving back here, ditto for here. I can put in excuse me, out in the workshop, raining, cold, dust, so excuse for the cough. Anyway, I can pop this into the bench dogs and then adjust the stop there to suit. So now I've got a multi-use of this one tool. which has got to be a good thing, does it not? And of course all the other accessories that go with it, or that I've got rather. So yeah, quite happy with that. It makes the not a cheap tool, not expensive, but not cheap tool work better over there. Now I thought about making the alignment of that. Hang on, I'll just go back a little bit. I was contemplating making the alignment 25 for the holes, 25 millimeters off of this. It just gives a nicer and stronger point for the items being measured to butt up against the main spine of that. I don't like having fences, like most people don't actually. Some do, some don't, but most people don't have a fence that goes out from the miter saw itself for all different practical or perceived reasons. But it would have been good to have bench dog alignment so that it could be used. I'm not wording this very well, but some people do like the extra length and precision, and there will be stops mounted to the rail that goes along, ideally mounted to bench dogs, the whole system. But there are other ways of achieving that, and I think that there is one of the ways of doing it. Anyway, I'm now getting into the woolly department when I start to try and explain ideas or thoughts without having fully worked it through. But anyway, very happy to, in this case, benefit from working slow. So that miter station and this workbench MFT tracksaw combo have got some commonalities that we can make benefit of. Oh yay. Anyway, that's it. As I said, just touched on those points just to bring you up to speed while I'm waiting to get my flaming sander back from the suppliers. They're having a look at it and why it broke, and it shouldn't, because it's a pretty much a commercial industrial grade sander. It's heavy and it was not cheap, and I've only had it for a few months, and something went bang in it. Mechanically something moved or broke or dislodged or something inside the housing of the motor itself. So very odd. Anyway, can't carry on with one of the projects that is being used for right at the moment, so I'm going to make up the cabinet that will sit on. I'm cutting down the panels, these ones over here, and I'll do the same for this little cast iron and really heavy saw here. I'd like to get that up and running just to see whether it meets my expectations. Lovely little saw. Don't know whether it will be kept. I'd like to keep it though, because it was the chap that he gave it to me. It was his dad's, and for that reason alone, I get a little bit, like, I like nice machinery and the story behind it. And it was a bit like, I'll end this video soon, but it was like the chap that I follow, Brandon. He has a similar view, and he's got inheritance machines or inheritance machining, and he will sometimes be able to rescue machines that are destined to be junked, and he'll grab them, and he has the same sort of feeling that if the machine doesn't get rescued by someone that's like me now, it'll be gone forever and no benefit. And if we can update it, even upgrade it, which I've got a little bit of an idea for this one, then it might see a little bit more life if it's not slogged out and worn and what have you. And sometimes good intentions, people will use lesser items, like that. That's a replacement motor from the original, but one I'll put on it, which I'll get, is a much more modern motor. So we'll see. So these are the projects I've got on hand at the moment. Rightio, that's it. Inside for a cuppa. Stop my coughing, and I apologise for that, but there you go. Yeah, okay, that's it. I'll see you in the next video now. Bye.